Boom, and we're live. Thanks everybody for joining into another episode of Man with Purpose podcast. Today I'm joined by Devin Fredericksen. Devin is a men's coach who helps men embrace their sexual power and support the regeneration of healthy masculinity in the world. He specializes in sacred sexuality, which I'm sure we'll get into, conscious intimacy, permaculture, and regenerative farming. With that being said, Devin, thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate being here. And is it
Thanks.
Pav? Am I saying that correctly?
Pav, yeah. Short for Pavel, but most people don't pronounce it. Yeah, so Pav is perfect, yes.
Pavel?
Yeah, there you go.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Thanks for having me, brother. It's an honor to be here.
Pleasure is all mine. I like to normally start these podcasts with just taking a deep breath, and I'll just invite you to do a quick check-in, whatever is present for you right now.
What's present for me is a ton of sensation in my body. I'm grateful to just feel so many places of my body alive. And I'm really alive to the new moon last night, as well as the beginning of Chinese New Year today. And we're entering into a year of the metal ox. So I'm just really alive to new energies.
Wow. The moment you mentioned Chinese New Year, I was like, oh wow, yeah, it is actually Chinese New Year. So everybody listening, happy Chinese New Year. I'm checking in with a lot of purpose. Really, this kind of work really feels right for me. So I'm checking in with a lot of that. Let's kind of dive in with kind of into your story a little bit. How did you kind of get on this path, and you found kind of men's work, and you kind of stepped up? What was life like before you found all of these practices?
It's a great question. And to me, I get asked that a lot, and it's really an evolving collection of my story. And I think it was really potent right now because I am standing in the house that's on 12 acres that I'm a steward of, that I'm 12 days into signing a contract of stewarding this land of 12 acres on Maui. And before I got into men's work, I was working with permaculture and regenerative farming and the earth. And the concept of permaculture is there is a permanent culture formed around a permanent agriculture system. And my work in that world within permaculture kept on showing me that human dynamics are the number one issue that is challenging anything across the board. It is the human dynamic. It is the challenge of actual communication, of connection, of actually wanting to figure something out together rather than this is my thing that I want to figure out and it's all about me and your thing doesn't matter. You're wrong, I'm right. And I saw that in so many projects. I saw that across the board. And that got me to want to step deeper into men's work because I just wanted to help humans. I want the earth, basically the next point that it got me to was I went on a vision quest. And on the vision quest, when I was on the 4-day vigil by myself on the water fast, the earth spoke to me and she said, your connection with me is solid. I know, and you know your connection with me. And what I'm asking is for you to go and help humans. If you desire for the earth to be here for humans, and if you want the humans to be here with the earth, you all have to shift your relationship. And so from that moment forward, that was in August of 2016, that was the moment when I had a clear vision and purpose. And I had already been involved in men's work since 2013. And it was that moment on the vision quest when I made that internal commitment to make that a really embodied part of my purpose.
Wow. Wow, there's so many things I want to unpack there. For people that are listening and don't know what a vision quest is, could you, because I think a lot of men, I think both men and women are kind of struggling a little bit with, finding purpose and finding meaning, especially in today's world. Can you explain a little bit about what is a vision quest and what can one expect if they go through that?
Yeah, I love talking about this because this is something that's really passionate and dear to my heart. A vision quest is a quest that you have a vision for. So oftentimes, if someone's going through a transition, a lot of times it's seen as a rites of passage and initiation. So a boy going into manhood, a man or a woman about to get married and enter into a deep contract, someone like myself who's about to step into stewardship of a big project, someone who is going from an adult into an elder, someone who's about to become a father or a mother. It's really, it marks a big transition point in someone's life, because when you go on a vision quest, you come back completely different. You come back completely changed, because I go to meet myself. I go to meet myself in the spirit world. I go to meet myself and see my reflection in nature, in the earth, and to remember that I am a part of nature. And I ask nature to help me deepen into who I am, deepen into my place within nature. And the first part of it is spent in a council. There's normally people who are guiding the vision quest. My guess is that there were different structures of vision quests where people would just go off on their own. The way I did it is I went with a group of, I went with 14 men. And that was a really powerful experience as well, because it was just all men. And we sat in council for 4 days. We got really clear. And my claiming statement in that vision quest, which I feel I'm still learning and growing. And my statement at that time is, I am a present, loving man who is a leader and community builder. And so that was flushed out through 4 days of counsel and mirroring and journeys on the land and nature walks. And then I went out for 4 days by myself. I just slept on the earth, no tent, open sky, and only water. And then on the 4th night, after staying awake all day, I stayed awake from sunset to sunrise. And that was the potent experience, because I did not want to stay awake. It was cold. I'm a man coming from Maui, going to the high desert in 8,000 feet in northern Oregon. In the fall time, it was in freezing temperatures. So for me, it was a way different experience than being on Maui. And then spent 4 days integrating that experience afterwards, and then came back to society. And so the whole point of it is to go quest that vision. And so for me, my vision quest, like my purpose on doing that, was I had not been on a rites of passage. I had not been initiated into my manhood, into really being in my space. And so I didn't have a specific purpose except for initiating into myself even deeper, initiating into my adulthood. And then that's where I got the message of, hey, it's time to go work with your humans.
I love that. Go work with the humans.
Yes.
What do you say to men who, listening to this, kind of resonate with, you're hitting a lot of touch points. Oh, like I can relate to this. I can relate to this. How can one, and this is again kind of a pivotal point, I think, in our society, the lack of these structures that are initiating men from one phase of life into another, commonly called as rites of passage, initiations, etc., etc. What would you tell someone who is listening to this and I'm saying, oh, but where should I go? What should I do in order to be initiated, so to speak?
That's a great question. And I think in this time, we have maybe a little more of a challenging experience because it isn't mainstream. It isn't something that is valued on the large level. It's it's a practice that has, in my opinion, largely been forgotten. And what I would suggest is I would connect to your local community. If there are wilderness communities around you or people who journey in those ways, my guess is they know people who can connect you. And if you really want to find it, what I would say is ask, pray for it, and it will come to you. Not needing to force it, rather open yourself to it, ask for it to be presented to you, and then watch the magic that happens. Because more often than not, from my experience, and this is my experience underneath it all, is that life is purely magic, and I get to play with it as much as I want and engage in that magic if I want to. And so my suggestion to you as a man who's looking for something like this, like a rites of passage or initiation, call it in, ask for it, pray for it, really call upon your ancestral support. And you can also do earthly things too. You can pursue it. You can find out, you can search rites of passage in your local area. So it may not be something that's widely talked about, and there's definitely individuals doing it. Some ones that I know of, the School of Lost Borders is one, the Cascadia Quest, Journeymen, Sacred Sons. Those are the ones that I know of actively on my mind right now that offer those. Darren Silver is the gentleman who's going to be leading the one with Sacred Sons. I love him. He's an incredible man. Cascadia Quest is where I did my vision quest with Rob Miller. Love that brother deeply. And yeah, there's really a lot that's there. And another way too is just simply start going out into nature. Get out of your house and go be on the earth. Go listen, because that'll just guide it even more. It'll call it in and attract it even more.
I'm really grateful that you're bringing this topic of nature, because I think during the last year or so, I think people really the sense I'm getting, and perhaps I'm generalizing here, but this is what friends are speaking, what I'm seeing from social media. People are really kind of getting a different perspective about their relationship with nature being taken away from them. And I think that's such a huge part of who we are. Right? We need connection, and one connection is with Mother Earth, which I think before has been very neglected. It's been, like you said in the beginning, it's been a very a harmed relationship. Let's put it this way. I think
I agree.
It's something that people don't necessarily get to experience by talking about it. You really have to go and be in nature and kind of, exactly. Awesome.
Because when we look at nature, is there human communication in nature? There isn't human communication, and everything else communicates. There is a language older than words that we can understand. We still have it accessible if we tap into it, if we allow ourselves, because we have that innate wisdom in our body. We are of the earth, regardless of how much we've forgotten it, whether we come from other places. We're right now, this is where we are. This is where we are from. Like we were, at least for me, I was grown in my mom's belly and birthed on this island of Maui.
Wow.
That to me is enough of being of earth. I don't necessarily remember exactly where I came from before this. And right now, this is my priority. My priority is prioritizing pleasure in this body, living on earth. And the recognition that it's this birthright that we have, not an entitlement birthright, but something that's there that is waiting for us to simply engage and participate with life on a deeper level. And like I said, there's a language older than words that is waiting for you. So if you go out and listen, trees talk to me, plants talk to me, different animals talk to me, insects talk to me. Whales I'm so blessed and grateful to be out here in Hawaii and specifically on Maui, because the whales come and gather over here, and being able to swim in the water with a whale
Wow.
that is 50, 60 feet is life-changing. And the same experience is with a bee, getting to interact with this small creature that can cause such a big impact. That's also medicine, that also provides honey, that's responsible for 40% of the pollination on the earth. Is just interacting with a bee and watching it fly up and land on me is such a magical experience. So yeah, nature is a big part of my life.
Wow. Listening to you, it really strikes me, you're very grounded, man. You found a lot of, I mean, not found it, but like just rediscover the whole wisdom of nature and how much of a role it plays in our culture, if you will, whether we like it or not. Yeah, that's great. I'm curious to know, you mentioned a little, ancestors there, and the lack of rites of passage, and now I think us being a little bit of a crisis where a lot of men are kind of walking around without any purpose, without any meaning. And you being a man who embodies all of this, what do you think are some values that young men, or perhaps men that are in desperate need of this rites of passage, masculine power, if you will, what are some values that you think they should aim to develop?
That's a great question. Respect and acceptance of self and others. Because when you respect yourself and others, it's the remembrance that it's not about me. Serving and giving to something bigger than oneself. To me, that's the distinction from going from a boy to a man, is I recognize that I am here to give to something bigger than myself. I am here to prepare the soil of the future for those who come after me, whether I see them or not, to make sure that I'm giving back to what is given to me. Another value that I think is really important is integrity, meaning that I'm listening to my body, I'm listening to my wisdom, my intuition, and I'm actually acting and honoring that. And I'm building trust with my own self by listening to my body, listening to my intuition, listening to my guidance. Another one is really get in touch with your body, because again, our body is just like the earth, the microcosm, the macrocosm, everything's reflected in different layers and cycles. And when I have continuously come into my body and I journey from my head back into all that I am, rather than just being up here, I get to experience so much of life. And so tapping into your sensuality and your sexuality is the biggest thing from my experience, because when I am clearly connected to my sexuality, which is simply creativity, which is simply creation, we're always creating. When I can tap into that and be aware of that and bring as much consciousness to my creation as possible, then I get to see the impact in the world. And I get to see how I can give to something bigger than myself. And I think one of the most important aspects that I've seen and witnessed in men is to actually become a man. And I do this work and I'm around a lot of men, but I believe that I'm around a lot of little boys who are in adult bodies. And what I mean by becoming a man is, are you there? Do you know how to be there for yourself? Do you know how to soothe your heart? Do you know how to love yourself? Do you know how to ask for your community to support you? Do you actually cultivate community? And are you not placing your needs externally and outsourcing them and expecting someone else to give them to you? Because when I love my inner child and I welcome the little boy back inside, but I don't let him rule everything, I don't let him take control of the reins, and I use the adult self in me to guide and consciously choose my path forward, then there's a lot less drama. There's a lot less hecticness. It's not chaos is not bad. It's about, can I be that pillar of presence in the chaos? Whether that's related to my sweetheart, my partner, or whether that's related to my own storm, or it's related to a relationship, or my purpose and career or entrepreneurship, whatever it may be. We need to step back into being the pillars. We need to step back into being the alpha males, not from a dominant place, from a place of being a leader, of leading, of embodiment. And so I think the biggest piece, the biggest value is embodiment, is how can I stay connected in the moment with everything that's moving in my body, whether that's a crazy memory from a childhood past trauma that triggers something in me, and I still stay with it no matter what's going on, no matter how intense it is, especially when working with others. And again, human dynamics. It's in those relationships where the mirrors are so strong and powerful that a lot of times people get taken away. And I think that we have not been guided how to stay present in our bodies. We've been so guided to be up here and to just look to something that tells us what to do, and then we do it, rather than listening to this and then acting from that place.
Ooh, booyakasha. Damn, dude. Yeah. Wow, very potent. Like, so many things to unpack there. Actually had an idea about a book, thinking about what are some of the world problems that right now the world is facing. And people say AI, nuclear war, climate change, etc., etc. I think all of those are incredibly important. I'm trying to think like from first principles,
Yes.
and whenever I boil everything down, I think it really becomes, at least in my mind, everything is about this kind of lack of fathering or lack of fatherhood in the world, in the sense that how is it called? Not so much patriarchy, but this notion of porky, the rule of boys, and being stuck in mature bodies. And I can't think of any I am in this kind of space, so I can think about role models. But for the majority of people out there, masculine role models is something that is absent, and I don't see that anywhere. Everything is being ruled by men who are in their shadows or in their inner child, Peter Pan syndrome type of thing. So this work that you're doing and everybody else is kind of doing, that we have conversations on this channel, incredibly important.
And something just really interesting off of that is we actually have role models. And the role models are men who are not in integrity, men who manipulate, men who take, men who rape, men who abuse. So that's what the role models are showing us. The leaders who are in power are not being a leader. At least the way that I see a leader, I do not think that they're being leaders at all. They're not embodying it's just, and there's nothing there. And so at what point do we step up and say, hey, we're going to do things differently? And yes, we're still going to have leaders. We're still going to have people in positions who make choices for individuals, because not everyone wants to be in that position. Not everyone wants to be a leader and have that weight and the sincerity of a decision. And we also need people to step into that space. We need it on both sides. And we need men who are in the community, who are those pillars of presence. And we need men who are stepping into other levels of leadership as well, who are those pillars of presence, whether they're leading a company, whether they are just leading a sector of a company, or they're in politics, or whatever it is. We need individuals of integrity, of respect, of reverence of the sacred, of honor, of love, of acceptance. I think that's another value is the inherent worthiness. When a man can accept himself and know that he is inherently worthy, that he doesn't have to do anything to prove himself, when he can accept himself, from my experience, that really changes my whole reality, my world. And when I witness that in other men that I work with, is so many men think that we have to do. And that's not what the world is asking of us.
Man, oof. A lot of things to think about and reflect upon what you're saying there. A lot of wisdom coming out. I think we kind of touched upon this a little bit, but what do you think we as men can do for future generations, for our sons and daughters and grandchildren, etc., etc.? That's how I like to, because I think there's been a lot of, and whether people believe in this or not, I think for me it's more obvious than ever. There has been a lot of generational trauma that we kind of sweep under the carpet. People don't really talk about it because it's, we're not really taught to face the shadow and face all these traumas. I kind of have this kind of mentality, what, the buck stops with me. I'm going to take whatever, my responsibility to deal with all this mother, father, grandson, grandfather, etc., etc. What else do you think we can do to support and aid future generations that are coming after us?
Thank you for asking that, because I don't necessarily know. And together as a collective, we will know. What I know to be true is one of the biggest pieces is reclaim your sexuality. Because from my experience, when you reclaim your sexuality, you heal your relationship with the earth. You heal your relationship with the feminine inside you and outside of you. And from that place, you can live a life of power, passion, purpose, and play. And we need to make sure that the earth is cared for, that the earth feels a reciprocal relationship that we have with her, that we give back. So getting to know your local ecosystem and your local food system, knowing your local farmers. And if you don't know local farmers and you can't find any, start growing your own food. Start knowing the local plants in your area. Start getting outside and connecting and finding the local waterways in your area, because it's all around us. We have them everywhere. And we need men who are connected to their sexuality, so that way they are clearly creating and they have a deeper awareness of what they're creating in the world. I personally am so grateful that I'm sick and tired of hearing about women being raped. I'm so sick and tired of hearing about clear-cutting forests, about dredging reefs, about toxic chemicals being used and being sprayed on plants to harvest them, and using Roundup as a way to make plants dry faster. And all of these aspects of literally having war on the earth, which is just having war on ourselves. And so when you can love yourself as a man, you can then be an example to those around you. Whether you have children or not, you're still a father at some point in your life. You're going to father something, whether it's a creation. We are a father of our words. So the words that we speak create impact in the world. So the more you can become responsible of your sexual energy, which is, again, creativity, when you can step into responsibility of that, you're going to be able to help vision and give back to the future. When you connect to that, the food that you eat, the water that you eat, and make sure that we're coming from a place of love and regenerative systems that are making sure that we actually have nutrients in the soil, just so we can actually be filled in our body and not be overfed but undernourished. And I mean, there's so many things that I could say to this. And I think the biggest one is just remember to get back and participate with life. Because so much of us have, you're referring to men who don't have purpose. The reason why a lot of us don't have purpose is because we've created a lot of aspects of life that we don't need to engage with anymore. It's so easy for so many people to just go to the store and buy food. But if people were to investigate into the food and to see that the food's coming from around the world, that we've created pretty much a homogenized system, rather than having the variations in all the different areas, we just continuously come back to like one seed strain for zucchini across the board, rather than having the variations and trading and being in awe and curious of all the different strains that come up or whatever it may be. And I mean, this is something I'm extremely passionate about. So
I can see.
food, water, being in your body, or connecting to sexuality, and really just being there for the youth, letting the youth know that they are worthy, and not telling them what to do, but listening and letting them guide the way as well, and being a leader in your own embodiment. So that's what's coming up for me now. I think what we really need to do is we need to engage in a culture that is way more engaged with life. And a lot of times I'm not witnessing that yet. That's my active pursuit, is continuing to create a culture and be a part of a culture that is participatory, that is bringing our connection back to the earth and our bodies.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Amen to this, man. Amen to that. Phew. You know, I never thought about it from that perspective, that men should get more connected into their sexuality, because yes, whatever we're doing to nature, we're doing to ourselves. I had a guest on the show. His name is Amir Khaligi. He was saying, you know, we've been detached from the Great Mother, and that's why it's, you know, a lot of the pain and suffering is coming because as a result of this disconnection. Is this what you referred to as, yeah, shake it up a little bit? Is this what you referred to as sacred sexuality?
What I refer to as sacred sexuality is an attempt to help people understand that our sexuality is just as important as every other aspect of life. And we all, for the most part, everyone comes from the act of sex, of a man and a woman coming together and procreating. And we can't get away from that. Even if you have two men who want to bring a child into the earth, you still have to take the sperm of that man and inoculate it and inoculate an egg from a woman. Like, even if we have a scientific assisted process, you can't get away from that. And so it is a man and a woman, 1 + 1 = 3. And you have this aspect to bring a child into this earth. And so when it comes to sacred sexuality, it's the awareness that our sexuality is power. Our sexuality is magic. You and I and whoever's listening, we have power between our legs and at the tips of our fingers, because I can help my partner reach states of bliss, whether I'm touching her, whether I'm kissing her, whether I'm giving to her, whether I'm making love to her, whether it's through penetrative sex or not. And that we, for the most part, we have been misguided and led away from our sexuality. We've been shamed for our sexuality. We've been told that our sexuality is only for having children, and that is to control us. That is to keep us from not accessing this power, this gift, this pleasure that is accessible to us. And what can be done with that is there's this higher level of experience and consciousness that can happen when someone brings this intentionality to their sexuality. And when I make love, whether I pleasure myself or I'm making love with my partner, her and I can reach such deep states of bliss that I have no concept of what I am, but my body just feels huge and a part of the universe and everything, and doesn't feel like there's separation with her and I. And so when I actually celebrate and honor and embrace my sexuality, I get to then use that and give to the world. And I've said this multiple times, sexuality is creativity. It's creation. So if you and I, we have the power of life in our balls. We literally have the ability to create children. Just like women can grow it and birth a child, one man has the ability to populate and birth as many humans as there are in the US. One man could technically fertilize all of the eggs within the US. And so if I'm not using that energy, if I'm not actively creating a child, then how can I circulate my energy? How can I circulate without releasing that energy and choose how to give that to my purpose? Because that's what I've been taught. That's what I've experienced. That's what I've literally witnessed in my own life and in other men, is when I take that creative sexual energy and channel it towards my business, channel it towards an offering into the world, channel it towards the health and vitality of my body, channel it towards deepening my relationship with my partner, there's so much that can come from that, and pun intended and no pun intended. And so it's something that we just have not been guided or talked about or taught about. And it's just a part of everyone. The plants shoot their seeds into the air, in the ocean. Different animals just literally just spray their sexual juices and fluids to travel through the water to then spread, and seeds and all these things. And it's such a deep topic because it's happening all the time. The cells in our body, your cell and the cells in both of our bodies are splitting right now and actively reproducing. And so the cycle, to me, sexuality is just the cycle of life, of birth and death going on all the time. And the last thing I'll say, which will probably just, my guess is we'll dive deeper into this, the way that you have sex is the way that you live life. And the way you live life is the way you have sex. And so this is something that I'm extremely passionate about, is helping men reclaim their sexuality so they can heal their relationship with the earth. They can heal that relationship with the feminine inside of them. And like I said, truly live a life of power, passion, purpose, and play, because we need all of those. And it's time to come back into that.
Wow. Okay. Let's dive right into it. Someone listening to this, hearing you say like, the way I make sex is the way I live life. Let's dive deeper into this.
So we as men, we have a very penetrative essence. When it comes to sex, we actually penetrate. So a lot of us have been shown pornography. A lot of us have been guided to show up in a certain way when it relates to sex. But from my experience, women are not necessarily wanting to be made love to the way that it happens in pornography. It's not to say that there isn't a primal, passionate space when you make love. I'm not saying take that away. I'm just saying that we have to be way more aware of how we make love, of how we live life. Am I rushing things? Am I just rushing from one thing to the next, trying to get something done because I'm not present enough and I'm just thinking? And so when it comes to sex, it's another one of those things. I just got to get it done and got to get to the next thing. And there's the opportunity for us to slow down. There's the opportunity for us to connect to my body, to connect with my partner. And if the energy gets hot and more aroused and intense, great. And it's about the recognition that everything in life is connected. There's no separation. And so to me, when I can connect to that sexual energy, again, the creative energy, if I'm pouring my love in my entrepreneurship, into my career, into my purpose, into my offering, just like I pour my love into my partner and how I make love to her, the way that I relate to money, if I relate money like a lover of mine and I respect it and I honor it and I value it and I give to it, or my body, if I treat my body like a lover and I actually touch my body with reverence and respect and have curiosity, like what feels good, rather than externalizing everything, it applies across the board. And then what I have experienced personally and witnessed in other men and clients of mine, when I can actually step into deeper levels of presence with my body and making love, the confidence is amplified into all areas of my life because I feel amazing. And if I have a partner and I'm making love to her, then I feel amazing because of the connection, not because of how I perform, but because of the presence that I have with myself and the connection that comes from it. And so it's the recognition, again, that everything's connected. And the more that I can drop into my presence, there's going to be great sex rather than performance. Because again, I'm thinking, I'm not in the moment, I'm not experiencing, I'm taking myself away. And we got to be here because this is where it is. So my presence with you is going to affect my presence in the bedroom. My presence in the boardroom is going to affect my presence in the bedroom, and vice versa. It's across the board. And the reason why I say this also is because our seed, our semen, is deeply connected to our life force. And our body every day is spending so much energy on creating this life force energy to procreate and to help create other offspring. And so if I'm just ejaculating all the time and releasing my seed, releasing my energy, then I deplete myself. That's why for the most part, men, when they ejaculate, they pass out, they're drained, they're tired, and women are like, where are you? You just leave. And my experience from circulating that energy, from cultivating that energy, I can make love for however long I want, and I am energized. And then I can go run, I can go train, I can go work out, I can go grow food, I can go cook food, I can put work into my business, whatever it may be. So I'm just gonna leave that right there.
Wow. What do you think are some practices that, men who want to get on this, let's call it higher path, because it is really an art form, and I'm sure it took you along, many years to develop. What are some, I'm just trying to thinking from a perspective of someone who gets introduced right now by this material. Maybe they're addicted to pornography, as many men are. I've been there for sure. What are some practices to break those habits and also start cultivating new constructive habits?
Yeah, it's a great question. We are creatures of habit. And so if you have formed a habit around pornography, I would use that tool, because to me, our addictive nature is a gift. Rather than tarnishing and judging and criticizing and shaming our addictive nature, you're drinking water, I'm drinking water. I'm addicted to water. I'm addicted to the breath. I'm addicted to nature. I'm addicted to being in that space. I'm addicted to really high quality, good food. I'm addicted to really good sex, because these are the habits that I choose to be addicted to. And so if you want to break your pattern of porn addiction, if you want to break your pattern of premature ejaculation, if you want to break some of these challenges that you may be experiencing, first get clear on what you actually want to do. Put your focus on what you actually want to do, because you're going to use your creative power by focusing on it. You're going to cultivate your sexuality simply by choosing to focus. Because from my experience, that's one of the biggest pieces when it comes to learning to be a multi-orgasmic man, to being able to separate ejaculation and orgasm, is to be focused and to have that clarity of mind, because it's the connection to all these other parts of my body. And so that's one piece, is really get clear on what you want to achieve, what you want to manifest, what you want to integrate into your experience, and then find the habits that will create that. One of the best ones that I can suggest is get connected to your breath. Just if you don't do anything else, and if you listen to this podcast and you didn't do anything, but you committed to getting in connection to your breath and watching your breath when you start to experience arousal. A lot of times the breath will get higher into the chest. Learn how to take it deeper into your body. Your breath will regulate your system, will help you calm down. You messaged me in tech, and when we were talking about this appointment, you said you have a BJJ competition. For those listening, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That is a critical sport, because if I try to increase my breath and go fast, I could set myself up to potentially do something really good, but I could also set myself up to do something where I'm not mindful and then get tapped out. And so the more that I can be in command of my breath, I can be in command of my body. And so get into your body. The second one is you need to be embodied and in your body, embodiment, in body. And when you are in your body, you're going to feel the arousal, the sensation, and you're going to have to learn where your line is, that if you go past that line, you're going to come no matter what. And so it's all about coming home to yourself. And that's what my journey was, is I learned about this practice when I was 20, and I'm 32 now, and have been living that lifestyle since then. And I feel amazing. I have so much energy. I'm so grateful for it. And it's completely changed my entire life. And I went celibate because I wanted to really know myself, rather than getting so caught up in the beautiful distraction of a woman. Not that she is a distraction, but it can just sometimes take me out of my body because I'm so enthralled and just captivated by her beauty and her essence and her radiance and her pleasure and all these components that I sometimes forget about myself. And when you can come home to your body, when you can return into all that you are and be able to feel what's going on, you're going to know how to navigate. And so again, those two things, breath and getting in your body, are the biggest pieces that I can suggest to a man to being on this journey. And the another like addendum to number 2 of getting in your body or embodiment is make sure that you activate your glutes, because our glutes are the most powerful muscle in our body as a man. The most powerful muscle in the human body is the uterus, which is in a female's body, but we don't have that. And so we have our glutes. And if our glutes aren't activated, and I know you know this from BJJ, if you don't have strong glutes, your hips aren't there, so we can't thrust up and like get someone over us. It's like if I try and use all my chest, I'm going to tire myself out. But our legs have so much endurance, and the glutes need to be strengthened and activated because that's our power. And if they're not activated, we're giving our power away, which is why a lot of men, from my experience, are challenged when it comes to sexuality, because their glutes and their overall body and health and strength and vitality are not online. So we need to get back into our strength. We need to get back into our power. And as men, our power we have in our body, not in improving our strength, but in cultivating that strength, in iron sharpening iron, men being able to train with each other. Because if you know how to fight, imagine like you are fighting a lover, and the fight is to love them, not to fight them. But it's this dance, just like in BJJ. The dance is to tap the person. The dance in my lover is to connect with them. So if I'm playing with it and moving with it, I get to actually meet that person. I get to actually have that curiosity to go to that place with them. And right as I heard that, I heard a gunshot go off. So, boom.
Nice. Wow. First of all, I totally agree about the embodiment, getting back to the breath. Funny enough, you say breath. Before the podcast, I did about 20-minute nonstop. I think it's cyclonic breath work or something like this. Maybe I butchered this, but don't quote me on this. It just really kind of, everything goes back into the body. Just wow, like being in touch with the senses. Everything is so much different, and everything is so slower. Yeah. So yeah, firsthand, definitely that's a practice that people should cultivate, especially men. I mean, both men and women, but since we're on this topic, and I think, what you're saying, one thing I was just curious to dive in a little bit more is I've been addicted to pornography. I've been addicted to sex as well. And it wasn't until maybe I started reading David Data, Where the Spirit Man, and all those books, where he kind of says that, this is your, I think in Think and Grow Rich, they also mentioned this, sexual transmutation. What were your lessons when you went celibate? How long was that for? And what was kind of the takeaways for you?
Yeah. So I went celibate when I was 20, and I was celibate for 1.5 years. And what I noticed is what happened was women were attracted to me way more, because I said, I'm not going to go there, and I'm going to cultivate this energy. I wasn't doing it for that. I was doing it to get to know myself. And then it became more challenging because there were women just not flocking to me, but I just got way more attention from women, and I wasn't sure what it was. But then I learned over time that what was going on is I was sexually transmuting my energy, and I was moving it in my body, and I was storing it. I was cultivating that life force, and we can cultivate that and build. Our bodies are like batteries. We can store that energy, and it just grows and grows, and I can expand my capacity to embrace and receive more. And the biggest takeaway that I learned in that time is everything started to increase, whatever it was, whether it was my ability to relax and be calm, whether it was my ability to perform in school. And I pretty much was getting 100 on everything from that point forward. I was studying engineering and environmental science, and everything increased and got better. I was playing intramural basketball, and I went from the B League to the A League and playing with all of the top athletes, and everything slowed down. Everything was easy, not easy, but I was present, and I could dribble through men, and I could just see where the energy was going, and it just, something shifted in me. And they asked me to join the basketball team, the college basketball team. And all these things started happening. I didn't join because I was too busy with stuff, and I didn't want to enter into that at that place. But it just, my life just became more intense and in a beautiful way. And it's like, what the best way I can put it is, have you microdosed with psilocybin?
Not psilocybin. I have done microdose with LSD, but not with psilocybin.
So, at least from my experience with the microdosing, it's as if there's an extra filter, kind of like the filters that we have on Instagram now. And like there's sparkles and shine. That for me is my experience with cultivating my sexuality and not releasing and just cultivating that inside. Is I literally become high on my own supply inside my body. I become high off of my sexual energy. And what they're talking about in sexual transmutation is this concept of not releasing your seed and circulating that in the body. And when I can raise the energy up rather than keeping it focused in my genitals, and just the sensation is so good, and then boom, I ejaculate. There's a reason why the sensation feels so good, because literally life wants to continue going on. Life doesn't want to stop. So this is a biological response to help us want to do that more, to make sure that we spread our seed. And if we're not doing that, we can then take that pleasure and move it into the body. And just saying that, like, I can feel the energy move up my spine, and I feel the tingling sensations in my shoulders and my back and going down my arms and to my feet, because that's mostly my experience now, is I'm just feeling that all day. And there's times where I forget that that's become my experience. And I forgot that it wasn't always like that, but it's always there. It's accessible for all of us. And so what I want to share with you, my brothers who are listening to this, or women, you have the accessibility and the full potential to experience this as well. Doesn't matter where you are. Doesn't matter if you're a man who is ejaculating in under a minute, because there are men who I work with who ejaculate in 10 seconds, and they're so down on themselves. And I've seen men go from 10 seconds to 2 hours when they put in the work, when they commit to it, and they know that it's possible. And I'm just here to remind you that it is so possible, and it is something that is powerful, that you can really transform and bring forth. So that's the last piece that I wanted to add.
Nice, brother. Look, man, I think we can talk a lot more, and we can go even deeper with these topics. I'm just conscious of your time. I want to be respectful. Before we wrap up, I always ask a question. Was there something that you wanted me to ask you that I didn't?
That's a great question. What's something that you asked me that you did not ask?
No, was there something that you wanted me to ask you that I didn't? If it makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, it came out wrong, but I understand. I understand
nice.
you. it's funny because I've gotten to a point where I don't have an expectation when I come onto these calls. So I actually I feel really juiced up. I feel really activated. I feel really alive. I feel really on purpose. And yeah, I don't have anything right now that's coming to me.
No problem. No problem. I'm glad you left everything on the table. That's amazing. People listening to you, that getting across and really kind of resonating with all of your message. Where can they find more about you?
You can find me on Instagram. That's a platform where I share a lot. I'm also stepping onto Clubhouse even more and use that platform. And you can find me on my website, devinfredericksen.com. And for those of you who are listening, in 2 weeks from today, Friday the 12th, on the 26th, I'm starting another program called Sex and Leadership. And it's a 4-week journey focused all around sexuality and what we've been talking about of sexual transmutation and really helping a man get into this space. It's for all cross the line, whether you're a man who's a brand new beginner or you're a man who just wants to deepen into your sexuality. It's going to be a full-blown approach and an activational transformation. So that's something that if you're interested, would love to offer that to you men out there, because this is something that's deeply passionate to me. And I want to get this out, because the more men that share in this and embody this, I know that we're going to be supported in the world. So those are the few places you can find me.
I'll be sure to include everything in the show notes for people watching this or listening to this. And yeah, brother man, thank you very, very much for coming here, sharing all this wisdom, sharing this potent content. Please, people listening, watching this, go check Devin's not podcast, but the actual website and all the other outlets that he's on. And that's it. That's everything we have for today, folks. Thanks very much for tuning. Oh, there's one more.
I got one more thing. And this is the one thing that I wanted to share, that it's not necessarily a question, but it's just what's coming through right now. I'm like, oh, that's one thing I want to share. For the men out there, take the worry off of your cock and put your focus on your heart. Because when you do that, you'll realize that you have a lot bigger cock because it's connected to your heart. So if you imagine when you're making love to someone, or if you're making love to yourself, that it's connected to your heart, you're a lot bigger than you think. And so the more connected you are to your heart, that channel, that energy is going to go there. And I work with so many men, myself included, I've been shamed around that. Not that it's ever been an issue. It's just when I was in college, I realized that a friend of mine told me that I had a small penis. And I was like, what? You've never seen me naked. I've not connected sexually with any women in college because I have a girlfriend back home. So like, what do you know about that? And so I had a lot of challenge for a long time around it. And I've had great support from previous partners and my current partner to remember. And so as I've done the work over time, I've realized, it's connected to your heart. So just remember to live and from that place of your heart, not necessarily the physical heart, but that energetic space of the heart of love and acceptance and compassion and fierce love. To remember that love is also fierce, and to remember to be connected to all those parts. So just wanted to leave it with that. So thank you, brother.
Dropping it like it's hot. Nice. That's a potent message. There we go. All right, folks, thanks for tuning in. Go check out Devin's website. Do yourself a favor, and I'll see you in the next episode. Ciao.